Close your eyes and imagine Japan in the late 12th century. On the surface, it's a beautiful land of elegant temples and refined poetry. But just beneath that calm exterior, a silent storm is gathering. Two powerful clans, the Taira and the Minamoto, are eyeing each other with growing suspicion. In just a few short years, their rivalry will erupt into a conflict that reshapes Japan forever, opening the door to a new world ruled not by court nobles, but by warriors. This is the story of the Genpei War. At the start of our story, the Taira clan, led by the ambitious Taira no Kiyomori, has reached the absolute peak of its power. The imperial court in Kyoto is filled with Taira relatives. Even the emperor himself is just a child, connected directly to the Taira line. Many nobles whisper that Kiyomori is the true ruler of Japan, while the emperor is little more than a symbol in beautiful robes. The Taira seem untouchable, their influence woven into the very fabric of the capital. Meanwhile, the Minamoto clan, once the Taira's greatest rivals, has been crushed and scattered after earlier conflicts. Some Minamoto leaders were executed, while others were exiled to distant, forgotten provinces. But even in defeat, the spirit of the Minamoto refuses to die. Far from the capital, in the rugged lands of eastern Japan, the seeds of resistance are quietly being sown. The tension finally breaks when an imperial prince, Prince Mokihito, secretly calls on the Minamoto to rise up against the Taira. He believes the Taira have seized too much power and that the imperial house itself is no longer safe. His message spreads like wildfire, reaching the exiled Minamoto leaders who still dream of restoring their clan's honor. One of the first to answer the call is Minamoto no Yorimasa, an aging but highly respected warrior. Along with his supporters, he raises a small force to protect the prince. Their stand at the Yuji River, just outside Kyoto, becomes one of the opening scenes of the Genpei War. The Minamoto fighters desperately try to hold a bridge, tearing up its planks to slow the advancing Taira army. They fight with incredible bravery, but they are hopelessly outnumbered. The Taira push forward and Yorimasa, choosing a dignified end over capture, takes his own life, becoming an instant symbol of loyalty and resolve. Although this first uprising fails, the flame of resistance has been lit. In the distant Izu province, another Minamoto figure is waiting for his moment. His name is Minamoto no Yoritomo. Exiled since he was a child and watched closely by Taira loyalists, he has spent years pretending to be harmless, a forgotten man with no ambitions. But deep inside, he has never forgotten his family's humiliation. Now the prince's call gives him the reason he needs to rise. Yoritomo begins to gather support among the local warriors of eastern Japan. These samurai are a world away from Kyoto's elegant palaces. They are practical men who live with the land, manage their own fields, and are eager for a leader who understands their way of life. Slowly but surely, Yoritomo builds a base of power in Kamakura, a coastal town that will one day become the center of a new government. At the same time, another branch of the Minamoto rises in the north. Minamoto no Yoshinaga, also known as Kiso Yoshinaga, launches his own campaign. He builds an army in the mountainous regions and begins to move toward the capital from a different direction. Suddenly, the Taira clan faces immense pressure from both the east and the north. Their once secure world is beginning to crumble. Within the Taira clan itself, things are not as stable as they appear. Kiyomori, the powerful strongman who built their empire, passes away, leaving his descendants with great power but also immense responsibility. To make matters worse, famine and harsh weather sweep across Japan. Many people start to blame the Taira for the country's troubles, believing that their arrogant rule has upset the natural order of things. In 1183, the pressure finally becomes too much. Minamoto forces under Yoshinaga advance on Kyoto. The Taira decide that holding the capital is too dangerous. They gather the young Emperor Antoku, a child who is their direct relative, and retreat westward, taking the priceless imperial treasures with them. As they withdraw, parts of Kyoto are set on fire, turning the elegant city into a place of smoke, chaos, and confusion. When Yoshinaga enters Kyoto as a victor, the people at first welcome him as a liberator, but power quickly changes him. His rule becomes harsh and uncontrolled. He clashes with the court nobles, and even with other members of his own Minamoto clan. Yoritomo, watching all of this from Kamakura, understands that a new problem has emerged. If Yoshinaga isn't stopped, the Minamoto could end up destroying each other instead of the Taira. To solve this, Yoritomo sends his brilliant half-brother, Minamoto no Yoshitsune, along with another general, Minamoto Noriyori, to restore order. Yoshitsune is young, intelligent, and incredibly bold. He quickly becomes famous for his speed, his creative tactics, and his uncanny ability to read the battlefield. In early 1184, Yoshitsune and Noriyori confront Yoshinaka near Kyoto. Yoshinaka's forces are defeated, and he meets his end in the snowy fields of Awazu. With that, the Minamoto leadership is finally united under Yoritomo's authority. Now the stage is set for the final epic struggle between the Minamoto and the Taira. The Taira have retreated further west, building strongholds along Japan's inland sea. They use their control of the sea routes and coastal fortresses to hold their ground. But the Minamoto are determined to finish the war once and for all. Yoshitsune, leading the Minamoto armies, pursues them with remarkable energy. One of his most famous victories comes at Ichi-no-Tani in 1184. The Taira camp is protected by the sea on one side and steep hills on the other. They believe they are completely safe. But Yoshitsune studies the terrain carefully and finds a narrow, treacherous path down the mountainside. In a daring move that nobody expected, he leads a small group of horsemen down the steep slope in a surprise cavalry charge, while the main Minamoto army attacks from the front. The Taira defenses completely collapse. Many of their leaders are forced to flee by sea, escaping with their lives but losing much of their strength and confidence. Still, the Taira are not finished. They regroup at Yashima, an island stronghold. In 1185, Yoshitsune decides to strike again. The Minamoto cross the sea in a sudden storm, using the cover of rough weather to make a surprise landing. When the Taira realize what's happening, they are forced to abandon the island in a panic. Legends say that during a lull in the fighting, a Taira lady challenged the Minamoto to shoot a fan placed on top of a pole on one of their ships. A Minamoto archer, Nasu no Yoichi, rode his horse into the waves and, with one perfect shot, hit the fan, a stunning display of skill that has been celebrated for centuries. The conflict now moves toward its final tragic stage. The Taira gather their remaining strength at Danano-ura, a narrow strait where powerful currents push the water back and forth. Here, in 1185, the last great battle of the Genpei War takes place. The Taira bring the young emperor Antoku with them, hoping that his divine presence will bring them heavenly favor. The Minamoto fleet approaches, their banners flying, ready to end years of struggle. At first, the currents favor the Taira, and their archers have the advantage. But as the tide turns, so does the battle. Some local warriors who had been allied with the Taira secretly switch sides, giving the Minamoto critical information about the Taira formation. The Minamoto adjust their strategy, targeting the enemy ship's rowers and helmsmen, and slowly gain the upper hand. The Taira line begins to break. Realizing that defeat is certain, many Taira nobles choose death over the shame of capture. In a tragic scene that has been immortalized in countless stories and plays, the emperor's grandmother takes the young emperor Antoku in her arms and leaps into the sea, taking the sacred imperial sword with them. They, along with the sacred jewel, sink beneath the waves. With this final act, the Taira clan's power is shattered forever. The family that once seemed unshakable simply fades from the center of Japanese history. When news of the decisive victory at Danno-ura reaches Yoritomo in Kamakura, he knows the path ahead is clear. The Minamoto have won the war, but the true challenge is just beginning. How to rule a country that has been transformed by years of conflict. Yoritomo understands that the old system, where court nobles in Kyoto held all the authority, can no longer stand. The warrior class now expects a voice in government. Instead of moving to Kyoto, Yoritomo keeps his base in Kamakura. There, he creates a brand new system of administration that supervises the provinces, appoints military governors, and manages land disputes. This is the birth of the Kamakura shogunate, Japan's first true warrior government. The emperor remains a sacred figurehead, but real political power has shifted into the hands of the shogun and his samurai. The Genpei War, which began as a struggle between two great clans, ultimately became the doorway to a new age. It marks the end of the classical Heian period with its refined court culture, and opens the Kamakura period, an era shaped by discipline, duty, and the ideals of the samurai. The stories of Yoshitsune's daring exploits, Yoritomo's cold strategy, and the dramatic rise and fall of the Taira would echo through Japanese theater, literature, and memory for centuries to come. When we look back at the Genpei War today, we see more than just a list of battles and dates. We see a powerful story about ambition and responsibility, about how quickly fortune can change. We see how a nation in crisis can completely transform its political system, creating something new from the tension between old traditions and new forces. In the swirling waves of Dano-ura on the steep mountain paths of Ichi-no-Tani, and in the quiet halls of Kamakura, we can feel the exact moment when Japan turned toward the age of the samurai. The echoes of that turn shaped the country's history for hundreds of years, all the way to the modern era. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into Japanese history, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow for more stories like this one.